feels like and sounds like.
Yeah, for sure. Student voice is the relevant voice in the room. Students develop confidence. They work to problem solve and develop more self-efficacy. Great comment there, Amanda.
And Kathy just put in that where teachers are facilitators, not givers of knowledge. That's huge. I think that's a big shift for staff, and we can talk a little bit about that when we get into maybe some of the challenges. But for teachers to give up that the notion that they are the givers of knowledge and to allow students to build knowledge with them and with each other, I think that's a great point. And it's a real I think it's a real hallmark of inquiry-based learning.
I think what Chris is also talking about not losing track of our learning goals and success criteria. Sometimes that's really difficult, but we really need to use a lot of assessment for and as learning so that we keep track of the curriculum expectations that the kids are learning as we move along. There's lots of knowledge building to be done in an inquiry-based classroom as well. I agree with you.
JC's got a really great point there. Utilization of tech can provide a greater opportunity for differentiation, open up the walls of the school to allow for crowdsourcing information and making learning visible. Gianna, I know you're doing a lot of that at your school through Twitter. Do you want to tell us about it?
Well, I think the best thing that you can do with Twitter is just showcase the excellent work of your community. Engage the community in the learning, not just the finished product, but the student thinking. And we post it. I'd love to post your examples as well. So if you use the hashtag Ontario Ed Leaders Inquiry, then we can post all these pictures into one Storify. So take a look. Join us on Ontario Ed Leaders Inquiry. There are pictures. There's lots of great work that's being done. And I'd love to share what's being done with the participants of this webinar.
Awesome.
Now, one of the things that I just want to point out is that, you know what, it's almost like a controlled chaos that's happening. Maybe chaos isn't the word, but there is a process. There is some structure. There's some form around it. But many of you pointed out that the teachers have to be willing to put the learning into the hands of the students, kind of give up that control, which I think sometimes can be problematic with some people. So moving on to the takeaway.
All right, so students are engaged in real-life problem solving. The curriculum focuses on global and local community events and problems, and students are engaged emotionally and intellectually with their learning.
And to summarize what I've been talking about, it is noisy. Students are actively engaged in collaborative projects. The teachers actively engage with students on work that is connected to a real-life problem or issue. And parents help to make technology accessible to students both in school and outside of school.
And for me, the true indicator of a learning environment that has embraced an inquiry stance really is engagement. Teachers and students are invested in what they're learning, and they're engaged with the topic and with each other.
So thank you so much for all of the learning today. Some simple thoughts about inquiry, and this is a picture of some of the knowledge building that we were doing last week with an inquiry problem. And you can see that all the work that's being done behind the scenes on this particular picture in the front. So inquiry requires more than simply answering questions or getting the right answer. It espouses investigation, exploration, search, quest, research, pursuit, and study. It is enhanced by involvement with a community of learners, each learning from the other in social interaction.
So we want to start again asking you for your opinion. And our first discussion point is what is meant by inquiry. So we want to crowdsource what you think about what we mean, or what you mean or understand inquiry to mean. So again, join us in the chat.
So if I were to give an example of what inquiry is, or some of the fantastic work that's happening at my school, for example, I have one of my teachers, actually a French teacher, fashioned this amazing assignment where students had to analyze the themes of a story in French, select a Francophone country, and come up with an issue or a concern that the students had to research and then come up with some kind of a solution. And some of the amazing work that's come out of it, some of the spin-off from it has been great. I've got one group of students who have started at a very enthusiastic Spread the Net campaign because they learned that malaria is a bigger killer in Africa than Ebola. And so they actually reached out to Rick Mercer, who put together a videotape encouraging our students to participate in this campaign. And so there's some real learning in terms of, how to organize a campaign, how to communicate the ideas, determining what is important. Other students have contacted the city and suggested that every month they implement a yellow bag pickup where students people can get rid of e-waste, right? Because they found out that in some countries, children are going into these dumps and they're stripping the metal from electronics. So, I mean, the learning that happens in a project like that extends so far across the curriculum in so many different directions. It's amazing. How about you, Mark?
Yeah, and I think for me, and I want to just kind of point out or highlight what Joanne said. It's learning that, or inquiry is really something that's meaningful to students, where they're asking questions about things that are relevant to their lives. And I think all of us, I think our deepest learning happens even as teachers and as administrators when we're asking questions about things that are meaningful to us. And when we allow students to, just as Martin says, when we allow our students to start with a question about something that they're excited about and is relevant to them, I think that's when inquiry really becomes the root of learning, the learning experience in the classroom.
Yeah, Martin's got a great input there. Starts with a question coming from the students, hopefully after having been excited by a new subject. Then the teacher focus on showing how to search for the answer themselves, hypothesis, testing the hypothesis, etc. Fantastic, yeah.
One of the things that I found was that you can really encourage inquiry with even the reluctant teachers and the reluctant parents if you allow them a real audience. Students love to showcase their work if they know that people are interested and engaged. So just going into the class and blogging and using Twitter to showcase the student learning, I found really, really helps to spread inquiry within our school environment anyways.
Yeah, absolutely. Sometimes teachers, in some of those subject areas, at least at the secondary level, and some of those subject areas where the kids, they feel like they're just doing work and it isn't really meaningful for them. I often encourage teachers to say, okay, well, how do you make it real? So in drama, yeah, I know you can do work in class, but you know what? Do a performance. Get them involved in Sears Drama Festival. There's Destination Imagination. That's real stuff because you're taking what you're learning in class, the skill, and then applying it in real life. Another teacher just last week was talking about cosmetology and she wanted to engage her students more, and I said, well, you know what, maybe you need to approach it more from a sort of a Dragon's Den sort of thing. How would you create your ideal hairstyling shop or barber shop type of thing? So I mean, the more real we can make it for the students, the more relevant it is for them.
I'll give you an example, Lou, of what you're saying. We have a number of signs up in our community, options for Davenport, about the Metrolinx bridge that they're proposing to put up in this neighborhood. Our students were really curious about that. They wanted to know how big the bridge was, what would the bridge cover, what would the implications be for the neighborhood with the bridge. So just looking at things that are in the neighborhood and responding to them can be a great impetus for inquiry.
So just talk about some of our takeaways
their own community.
From that question. For me, inquiry-based learning really is a model of learning that engages students in the learning process by placing their questions and ideas at the heart of the learning process.
Inquiry is student-driven. Student interest drives the lesson, and multiple curriculum expectations are linked to real-life problem-solving.
As a leader, it's important for you to support teachers' efforts at inquiry and to encourage them to find learning tasks that will connect students to real-life problems. Real learning happens when teachers encourage students to solve real problems. Is this me? I believe it's me. So some of the challenges to an inquiry-based learning approach are going to be discussed with this next question. Implementation of inquiry learning is hampered by the fact that teachers view factual knowledge as the most important student outcome, achievable through repeated drill and practice. Another challenge to implementing inquiry-based learning is that teachers tend to teach using the methods through which they were taught, relying on textbooks, lectures, and demonstration labs rather than inquiry-based experiences.
So our second discussion point today is about creating a culture of inquiry-based learning. What challenges might you encounter? So we're going to open up the chat, and if everybody could please share their idea. So what are the challenges to creating a culture of inquiry?
So Mark, what are some of the challenges that you faced?
Well, I think the obvious one for all of us is that teachers can be reluctant to change, and they can be reluctant to change for a number of reasons. Fear of something new is obviously a big one, and you know, I think oftentimes we hear that in times of stress, so at the elementary level, our teachers are writing report cards right now. And so we're heading into that. Teachers are stressed. They're busy at night. And so they kind of revert back sometimes to that. Well, I'll give them some handouts and some questions out of the textbook, and that will get me through the day. And it'll give me something to mark. And it will allow me to knock off those curriculum expectations that I need to report on. And so they kind of revert back. And instead of letting themselves take the risk, I mean, that's huge. You have to let go of control, and you have to take a risk. And I think that is probably one of the biggest challenges that we see in terms of creating that culture of inquiry-based learning. And not just for kids in the classroom, but also for teachers with each other. And time commitment is huge. I see that popping up here. Because to change your practice means you're going to have to invest some time into that. And I think that's hard. We're all busy. Outside of school and inside of school, and those are some great, those are some challenges we face. What about you, Lou?
You know what? I very much like you, I find that the teachers default back to what they're most comfortable with. It's amazing. During a PA day, teachers they're actively engaged, they're enthusiastic, they see the value of an inquiry-based learning approach. They can come up with learning tasks. They can do what you ask. I mean, they're great students when they're learning, right? But when they get back into class, it's the day-to-day grind. They fall back into what's comfortable for them, what they've done, what's already been prepared, and so it's really tough to shift that mindset. I was just noticing Martin made a very great insight. He was saying that one of his teachers was saying that using an inquiry-based approach, the teacher doesn't feel like a teacher anymore. They're sort of on the side, and I think that's something people really need to understand, that it's a different approach. I say you're still teaching, you're just doing it in a different way. But for somebody who's used to being at the front of the class, leading the class, driving the curriculum, I could see that's very scary. Gianna, what do you think?
Well, I think that we've listed a number of fears, and we have a good idea about how, or some strategies to overcoming those fears for both students, parents, and for staff. So thank you to everybody for the great ideas.
So the takeaway from this particular question, helping teachers feel comfortable adopting a new approach in an environment where status quo is easier and everything around them supports the perpetuation of our present industrialized model of education.
Yeah, for me, building a culture of inquiry, whether that's for teachers or for students, really does require a great deal of trust. Building and fostering trust with each other will allow that inquiry to flourish in a school community.
And I think my biggest takeaway to inquiry-based learning was that preparing an inquiry lesson requires a lot of knowledge building. Students and staff require structures and protocols, vocabulary, curriculum connections, and background knowledge for deep learning to occur.
So building capacity. The community cannot really be supportive unless people are aware of the importance of what is being advocated. In this case, we're talking about inquiry learning. So it's extremely important to make parents and others aware of how this approach to education is more compatible with the needs of modern society.
So I guess our third discussion point is what are ways that you can encourage inquiry in your school with staff, students, and parents? So Ben will bring up the chat box and share with us your ideas. So Gianna, how would you approach that question?
Well, I think one of the things that we found was that if we choose a topic that students are interested in, inevitably it's also an interest to the parents. So really being careful that we're not driving the inquiry question, but that the students are driving it, really listening really hard for what the students' interests are. And then we find inevitably that they'll take home that learning and the parents will become involved in it as well. What do you think, Lou?
For me, it is constantly going back at it. It's like a dog with a bone. You're always going back to it, really supporting it, really pointing out how, I'm trying to do what I would expect them to do, which is connect it to reality. And I'm always saying, okay, well, what's the world of work look like? What are kids going to be facing when they go out there? What kind of skills do we need to make sure that they have in place so that they can be successful? And then talking about how we get there. And sometimes it's about, making sure the technology is accessible to them, that teachers are comfortable with the technology, and making sure the kids are comfortable with it. I'm finding that's almost a bigger problem than the teachers becoming comfortable with the technology. So it's constantly teaching and supporting and providing technology and in-servicing for everyone involved. How about you, Mark?
Well, I'll share with you that in about an hour and a half, I've got a school council meeting, and we all have those. And I've made it a practice of my own this past couple of years to talk to parents about more than fundraising and just operational stuff of the school. And so school council becomes about learning. And when we talk to them about purchasing iPads for the school or buying document cameras, I talk to them about why, and I try to explain to them this is how we use these things to improve student outcomes, and I think that parents then get engaged, and the other way really is to and we've got a few classes here who have classroom websites that are so incredibly interactive. And you generate a conversation with parents, whether it's with Remind or whether it's a classroom YouTube channel or a classroom Twitter. Parents are involved on a daily basis in what's going on in a classroom, and they see the learning that's going on, and then they can have an informed conversation with their child. I mean, when my own kids come home, if I ask them what happened at school today, my son's going to tell me about whether or not there was a goal in the soccer game and it was debated because somebody had a handball. He's not going to tell me about what he learned in his math class, but I can go to the class blog or the class website, and I, as a parent, can really become informed as to what's going on learning-wise in his classroom.
Yeah, absolutely. One of the things that I've become very, very conscious of is if I want teachers to embrace a different approach, or I want them to start using certain pieces of technology, then I have to do that too. And if I'm not like 100% successful with it, let's say the iRover doesn't work or whatever, it's okay. I've got to show them that, you know what, it's okay. There's a plan B. You can work. It's not the end of the world. And and I think that helps to build or create that collaborative culture where people are not afraid to take risks.
I liked some of the comments that are coming up. Like open the doors of the classroom. That's a great point. We have to be able to take time to reflect. So thank you, JC. I think that's a great starting point.
Yeah, some of the comments are absolutely spectacular. Learning is social. Teachers need time to collaborate with each other, join the conversation. The principal as a co-learner. Actually, that's you, Gianna. So a great point there. Simon Breakspear talks about engaging parents as co-designers in learning. Great comment as well. Mark, have you noticed anything there?
Uh-oh.
Martin has a really good point. I would say in the start, find the most enthusiastic teachers and help them try it. You need to find those pioneers. Show their work, invite others into their classes for expos. The other teacher's going to see it and the result, and it will spread. I know I have a core group at my school who, quite frankly, they're amazing. They've pretty much taken control of a lot of our PD days. They provide a lot of in-servicing on different pieces of technology. We have workshop Wednesdays happening after school so that teachers can learn how to use some of this stuff throughout the year. So it's not just confined to a PD day. It's, just-in-time learning for our teachers. So moving away to the takeaway.
Thank you, Lou. Rose made some of those same comments, so thank you to Rose as well. My takeaway is some of the same takeaways as some of the people were writing on the chat. So open up your classrooms to each other, to parents, and to the greater community. Michael Fullen has a comment, make it voluntary but inevitable.
Yeah, and for me, we talked about this earlier too. It's about creating a culture or an environment that allows teachers and students to take risks. Because this is a risk. It's a risk for me. And I think when we tell teachers it's okay, they don't have to know everything. They don't have to be perfect at it. They just have to be willing to learn. And when you're willing to learn, it's voluntary but inevitable.
And for me, it's just the idea of making sure that you allocate your resources to where they're needed, making sure that people have access, okay, that it's not an issue for either students or teachers, making sure that students and teachers have the opportunity to learn how they can use the technology to support an inquiry-based learning approach to education.
The role of technology. When students are liberated from the monotony of memorization, they have time to learn the deeper frameworks and contexts that give facts and figures meaning. Then they can apply these understandings to any content they encounter in the future. The skills that they learn become the enduring understandings of their education.
So our fourth discussion point is, what role does technology play in supporting an inquiry-based approach to learning? So Ben's going to open up the chat. John, I know you use technology a lot, and how do you see technology supporting inquiry-based learning?
Well, one of the things that we found with inquiry-based learning is that if you take the time to reflect, to metacognate, it will increase student achievement tenfold. The problem is, I think that many people are very, very conscious of the time, so they don't take that time to metacognate. They don't take that time. They think of reflection only as journal writing, but technology can help all the students talk to learn. It can help them reflect in a very, very simple and quick manner. There are exit tickets, there's blogging, we have students tweet out their learning. Again, very, very simple and quick strategies for making sure that students are understanding what they're learning and are reflecting on the learning and building on it. What about you, Lou?
At my school, I'll tell you a little bit about a project that I think left the teachers no choice but to start approaching things if they wanted to use this equipment. I thought way back a few months ago, I said, how do we encourage collaboration? How do we make, how do people teach how students can collaborate with each other? And so I came across these learning pods, these collaborative learning pods, and you know, it's very simple. It's just an area where you can connect your device with a group of students. You can shift from one device to another. It displays what's on the screen. It's a D-shaped table, and there are these little pods in the library. And you know, I have to tell you, from the moment they were put into the library, they've been used every day. And just the fact that, you know, teachers and students have access to it, it almost teaches them how to collaborate. The furniture is intuitive enough for them that they walk in and they go, oh wow, this is a place where we can work as a group, where we can collaborate, show each other what we're doing. You know, and it's been wonderful. And you know, one teacher starts using it, and then another, and it spreads. You know, and in addition to that, just providing the teachers with the in-servicing so that they're comfortable with it. I think, you know, what's happened is sort of, I'm kind of taking a backdoor approach to shifting pedagogy, giving them the tools, and then saying, oh, and this is how you can use it, right? And Mark, what about you?
Well, I think there's been some interesting videos by a man named Sugata Mitra, and the most recent one I saw by him, he talks about the idea that knowledge is obsolete, or information is obsolete, that whole idea of knowing, because kids access information with their phones. And so that's really the shift in our world. I think that has to really take hold in our classrooms, and those teachers who still haven't come to the grips that with the fact that kids can access information, basic facts and information, in seconds, changes the way we teach kids in classrooms. And if you ever get a chance to watch any of the YouTube videos by Sugata Mitra, he has got some excellent stuff. And you know, sometimes I think that technology in schools, we need to get out of the way and let kids use the technology, let teachers use technology to really enhance learning and take it to the next level.
Well, I think, Mark, just to jump on that.
Thank you so much, Mark. I know that
I think the students know how to use the technology often. It's just a matter of us, you're right, getting out of the way so that they can show us how they can use it effectively. Gianna, what do you think?
I think so, and I loved Cam's comment about making the documentation of learning immediate. And sometimes I think we stall that documentation of learning, and what we do is we say, oh yes, here it is, here's the students learning, but we don't want to share it because it's not a finished product. Share it. It builds engagement. The parents love to see the student learning. They love to see their students talking about learning, and they'll become engaged in the process. We have parents who actually not only watch the videos, but then they tweet out questions for the students. They come into the class and they say, oh, I want to help with this. I want to participate with this. So I think that we can't just allow the documentation to be immediate. We have to do the next step. Allow it to be immediate and showcase it in its immediacy. Showcase that they're learning.
Yeah, I agree. You know, I think Steve Jobs had the right idea. You know, he talks about iterations, right? Like, what's a finished iPhone? Every year there's a new one. So clearly, it's still not done. They just make it better, right? And I think maybe if we approach student learning in the same way, and we're not afraid of the process and throwing it out there, because you know what? Kids will make mistakes. Well, that's great. Learn from them and then make something better the next time.
Yeah.
Perfect. So we use very simple and free technology to capture student innovation. We use blogging, video journals, Twitter. One of the online pedagogical documentation for learning tools would be Sesame HQ. You can find it on Twitter. We have to remember that learning is social, so students like to do these things together. They like to do it in groups. And metacognition is essential for knowledge building and for consolidation.
I've always thought that if you can't change someone or if you can't shift something, then you change everything around them so that they have no choice. So you need to put technology into the hands of staff and students that will support an inquiry-based approach, If you can change the environment for the learner with technology or furniture or equipment that demands a different approach to teaching, then you can shift pedagogy a lot easier.
And for me, technology is a tool, and it allows the staff and students to make inquiry even more engaging. In the chat, I think we saw these points. It provides for global questions, infinite access to infinite information, and the opportunity to share and build knowledge with the world.
So I think, you know, after such a lively and interesting discussion, some absolutely fantastic points have been made. So much so that I'd love copies of what you've written. I know Mark has already asked, can we get copies of the chat, because there's some wonderful ideas. You know, reflecting on all of that, I think really what we're talking about is the educational imperative. I think at no other time in the history of education has the student voice been more valued and more vocal. And I think in one way or another, our students are telling us, you know, what kind of education they are looking for. They know what they want to learn and how they want to learn it. So I think it's really important for us to embrace the change and to help our students, our parents, our staff move forward into the 21st century.
We have 3 questions for assessment and reflection. At the end of the 3 questions, we're going to open up the chat pods. The first one is, given that modeling is a powerful tool, what are some of the things I will need to do to ensure that I am more comfortable with an inquiry-based learning and technology?
What can I add? Okay, so what we're doing is we're opening up the chat for all 3 questions. The second question is, what can I as a leader do now to shift pedagogy in my school? And the third question is how can I better get teachers to make use of technology to shift their own practice? So what we've done is we've opened up a chat for each of the 3 questions. So take a minute right now, try to answer all 3. And if not, just pick one that speaks to you and make a comment, and we'll take it from there. So, Gianna, which of these questions really speaks to you?
Well, I think ultimately it's the shift in pedagogy that speaks to me most strongly. I think that teachers, while they believe in a very theoretical way about the importance of inquiry, when it comes to the practical nature of it, they fall back on the way they learned. Mark, what do you think?
I'm looking at
and I think as an administrator, for example, I'll share with all of you that the 3 of us used Google Hangout to plan. I mean, I'm in London, and Lou and Gianna are in that big nebulous that we call GTA when you're this far south in Ontario. And so for us to meet really, you know, in person is not possible. So we used Google Hangout, and we used it to, we also used Google Docs to go in and co-create a PowerPoint presentation. And I'm sharing that with my staff because that was learning for me. And I think my staff needs to know that I'm vulnerable too and that I'm learning too. And so I can model that for them through the things that I'm learning here. And that's, I mean, obviously we're seeing that a lot in the chat here. Role modeling and providing those opportunities for staff to work with each other and to learn.
Yeah, for sure. Lorraine says using the Google Apps in staff meetings. I've gone totally paperless with my department head meetings, and actually even with staff meetings. You know, I've created shared folders where, you know, it's a BYOD staff meeting, PD days, academic council meetings. I mean, we've eliminated the need to photocopy, and people have access to the information 24/7. So, you know, it's time for us all to get on board and take some risks and to do it.
Yeah, and I think the point here is that with equity of access, and I think that's an issue that schools and school boards really have to address. I'm fortunate to be in a school community now where we can afford some, but you know, one of the questions that we're talking about in our grade 8 class is internet access a basic human right? And so, if in fact it is, then how do we have an equity of access across our system so that even those have-not schools then can have access to this? Because it's a distinct disadvantage for them if they're not learning in this way.
Yes, absolutely, absolutely. Gianna, are any of the comments that are coming up speaking to you?
Well, I think it's interesting because I think you're absolutely right about the access to technology. And it's come up over and over again because for us it's an equity issue. I mean, Barb writes the access to technology needs to be in place before any of this happens. I sort of, you know, I agree that it's an equity issue. I also think that ultimately if we don't just move forward, regardless of the mishmash of technology that we're using our handheld devices, that we're using, you know, some people are using Chromebooks, other people are using iPads, some people are using old desktops. If we don't just keep moving forward, then the kids are going to fall even further behind. So just work with what you have. Like, it's not perfect, but you know what, it will spread.
Yeah, I agree. I think, you know what, start small. Start small, start where you can, and start moving in you know, in the direction that you need to go. You know, you can't necessarily, you know, at the high school level, I can't necessarily afford to put a interactive whiteboard in every classroom all at once. You know, I figure as a principal, I'm in for the long haul, and you know what, maybe I can afford to put 1 or 2 in this year. Next year, I'll put in, you know, a couple of more. I'll consult with staff and say, okay, what's the priority? For us, it's upgrading the Wi-Fi. Can I do it all at once? No, not necessarily. So you know what? You look at what resources you have, and then you try to make available what you can so that you could be moving in the, you know, in the right direction. I think to say, you know, access is an issue, so we should just stick to, you know, past practice. I don't think that's a really great approach. I think, you know what, baby steps, whatever it is. Start with Wi-Fi or start with internet access, a computer in every class, whatever it is, something. Start moving forward, I think.
I think maybe we can move on. I'm just checking the time here, and it's already almost 20 after.
Well, we have some resources here that you can keep looking at. Also, all of these resources will be posted on the hashtag Ontario Ed Leaders Inquiry and Ontario Ed Leaders. One of the newest ones, the OPC YouTube channel, and as humbling as this is for me to say, because I'm unfortunately on some of these videos, there are some great videos that were posted from the TEL sessions in the summer. And they really, really support the work of this particular webinar. So if you have a chance, you can do a short video clip every day and sort of take on some professional PD just by taking 10 minutes to learn something every single day using that particular YouTube channel.
Just a reminder as we start to wrap up that there is another webcast in the series, and that's using technology to develop 21st century competencies, and that one's on February the 9th at the same time.
And what we'd hope that you could do is help us to continue the dialogue and the networking and the sharing, just based on some of the fantastic comments that were made, the wonderful insights. You know, the only thing I regret is not actually being in a room with you, so we can hash out what you've posted. But we can keep the conversation going using the hashtag OntEdLeaders or OntEdLeaders Inquiry. Or if you want more information, please visit us at www.ontedleaders.org.
I just want to say this has been a wonderful presentation. In my experience, I've really enjoyed this one myself, and I hope everyone else has. I'm going to give the mic back in just a second. I just want to give a bit of overview of what you're looking at. First off, there are two questions there at the top left of your screen, which would really help us move forward in these webinars and make them better for you. So please, your feedback is much appreciated. In fact, so much so that we have a survey for you to answer. If you look in the web links, those include all of those links that you just saw on the previous PowerPoint, as well as a link to a survey in a Google form. If you could fill that out for us, that would be phenomenal and really support us moving forwards. Another thing you might want to take a note of is the downloadable file. Inside of there, that PDF is actually a copy of today's PowerPoint presentation. Feel free to download that. All you have to do is click on it, and then you'll see the download file button will light up. It'll take you to another window to download, but once you close that window, you can come right back in here and answer the questions there. So I'm going to pass the mic back to our presenters today and let them just wrap up.
I just wanted to say that I really, really enjoyed learning with everyone today. Thank you for your insightful comments. Again, please keep up the conversation using Ontario Ed Leaders Inquiry and Ontario Ed Leaders. And I want to thank my co-presenters, Lou and Mark. Just been fabulous experience working with everyone. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Gianna and Mark. This has been great. The learning that I've experienced working with the two of you and putting this all together. And Ben, thank you very much for your support and everyone at TAL who've made this possible. It's just been a great experience. So thanks, everyone.
Yeah, and for me, I think I would love to have the conversation keep going, and I would encourage everyone to get on Twitter and use the hashtag #OnEdLeadersInquiry. Even if you're just tweeting stuff out that's going on in your school or professional ideas or resources that you have, if you just tag it, hopefully what we've done tonight is created a provincial professional learning network for ourselves, and I think it would be great if, and I would encourage you to use that hashtag and continue this conversation. Thanks, Lou. Thanks, Gianna, and certainly thanks, Ben. And thank all of you. I know it's a snowy night here in southwestern Ontario. I understand it's snowy all across the province, and I just hope that everyone has a safe drive home tonight.